there is no fixed amount of masturbation that one should do or should not do. So there is no such thing as too much or too little masturbation. Masturbation is a very, very personal choice that one makes. And what is too much for me might actually be too little or nothing for you. And that is very normal. Like I have been harping on, what is important is that you are more body aware, right? Like when you are masturbating, think of like what are the thoughts, what are the feelings, and what are the sensations that are coming up for you, like increasing one's awareness. Now this sounds like a bit of a I sound like a bit of a killjoy, because typically the way that we also view masturbation, in a country like ours, given the cultural and the social stigma, is that it's something that you just sort of need to get done with. And we also do, not all of us have the privacy of, let's say, our own room or our washroom. So we also have a lot of shared spaces. So what we tend to focus so much on is the result of it, which is the orgasm, right? Like you just want to get done. And in fact, there was a research which was done, which through which it was found out that, like, because a lot of Indian males tend to do that, they tend to really hurry their masturbation process, and they just like want to get to the climax of it. It also means that when they're engaging with a partner, the similar mindset of like this fear of getting caught, or the just wanting to get done with it like hurriedly, also gets carried forward, and which is why they're not maybe able to last as long as they would like to. So make sure that you're taking your time when you're masturbating, if that is something that you have the space and the privilege for. And also, like if you can, so at least, like, start noticing a little bit as to what's happening in your body, what's happening in your mind, maybe before, during, after, whenever you can remember it, now that you've heard me say this. And just become more cognizant about, what are the emotions that are coming up for you, right? Like, and often, like, what one finds very exciting in the heat of the moment when they're masturbating is something that these overwhelming feelings of shame and guilt might come up afterwards. So to also become aware of like what is really happening when one is masturbating, and to also seek help. Let's say if one is finding that what is constantly coming up is this connection of like masturbation with something like shame and guilt, that is when one should definitely speak with mental health professional. And it is really sad that we don't have these kinds of conversations when we are younger. And a lot of people, like over a period of years, like when they're constantly feeling these kinds of emotions every time that they masturbate, they automatically equate masturbation also with something that is shameful or that is disgusting. And that is where a lot of those myths also come from. And you would have also heard of the no fap movement. And while the no fap movement, I do believe is so fallacious. There is no such thing, like I said, as masturbation addiction. And not masturbating is not going to make you smarter. Not masturbating is not going to make you anything, right? Like it's not necessarily going to have any positive effects, except of course, like I said, constantly dependent on it, then maybe also reducing the amount that you are doing is something that could be beneficial for you. But I mean, the nofap movement, I suppose, is the first space where people were publicly also talking, of course from a very shameful lens, but they also found that kind of community where people were talking about how they're struggling with masturbation, or they're experiencing certain kinds of emotions when they're masturbating, and there was a validation of that. So if we were to offer this similar kind of validation, but from a pleasure centric lens, wherein we put the person at the center of the conversation, and we say that each person's experience with masturbation can be unique, and therefore there can't be a standard amount which one should masturbate or which one should not masturbate, and it varies from person to person, and what one should instead shift the narrative on is how one is feeling when they're engaging in masturbation. I think it would be a lot more beneficial. So masturbation is a bit like, playing a sport, right? It does require for you to engage with parts of your body. It also may require for you to engage with, like, let's say, your genitals, if that is how you're masturbating. It may also require for you to, your breath changes while you're masturbating. So it's a bit like that. So some folks may also find that they're a little bit tired after masturbating, right? But that doesn't mean that it's the masturbation in itself that has caused the tiredness. Even if you were to, I live a very sedentary lifestyle, unfortunately, like so much of my work is in front of a device. But so let's say I were to go for like a half an hour long run, I would feel really tired after it. And I would feel like I need a little bit of a rest before my body can go ahead and do another kind of physical activity. So that doesn't mean that my other organs have been negatively impacted by that exercise, or by, whatever is it that I've chosen to do. So similarly with masturbation, of course, you might feel a little, tired. You might feel a lot more relaxed as well, right? After that, which might mean that you might feel a little bit like you don't necessarily want to engage in anything strenuous after. So that doesn't mean that other parts of your body are being impacted in any manner. What one needs to remember, of course, is, like I said, the kind of pressures that we are using on that part of our body, right? Or on our genitals, or the kind of, like, let's say, media that we are consuming while we are engaging in masturbation can, of course, have an impact on us. The other myth that seems to exist, that if one were to use vibrators on their clitoris for extended periods of time, it would mean that they would not, that their clitoris would just become numb after a period of time. The nerve endings would just become numb. Just like I have discussed previously in this video as to how your clitoris has so many nerve endings. In fact, it has twice the number of nerve endings that a penis does. So it is a really magical organ, and something like a vibrator is not going to make it numb. But of course, you might find that if you've used it for like an extended period of time on the same day, then you might find that it might feel a little bit sore, for the lack of a better word. But again, like drawing the exercise analogy, you might also feel a little bit sore after exercise, but your body will recoup and rejuvenate. Like we've been saying, but if you do find that you're being dependent on masturbation a lot, if you find, like I was saying, you're not able to focus on anything else, you're not able to engage with other people, you're also, each time you do it, you're just feeling really bad about yourself, or you're feeling really disgusted, then it doesn't mean that you're actually bad or disgusting or not normal, or there is anything wrong with you, right? Like, I think our society also really looks at addiction in such a bad way. Addiction is also a disease, as is dependency on something. One has to treat it like a disease. I mean, I'm not even surprised, right? Even when someone gets a cough or cold, the first thing that a parent or a caregiver says is, you must have eaten something, or you must have like gone out in the rain, and that is why you are now sick. Like, this kind of sort of blaming of the person who's going through something is so all pervasive, and that has to change. So if you are someone who's suffering, then in fact you are someone who needs help and who needs extra support. It doesn't mean that you are bad or disgusting or there is something wrong with you. Could happen to anybody. The way that, like, at least the a little bit of kindness with which we are looking at COVID, right? We're not blaming the people. Like, for instance, that is not to say that dependence on masturbation is like COVID, but like, just to draw a parallel in public health, at least we recognize that it is the disease that one has to treat. So similarly, if you find that you're very dependent on masturbation, then it is the dependence that one has to address. And it does not define you as a person. You are an amazing, incredible, not disgusting person who's just going through something that is really difficult for them. And what you need right now, more than anything else, is care, people who listen to you, people who are able to help you, and people who don't shame you.